The bridge of the Chronos erupts into chaos as alarms shriek through the cramped metal corridors. Red emergency lights pulse like a frantic heartbeat, casting eerie shadows across the crew's panicked faces. Dr. Ilara Voss grips the console, her knuckles white, as the planet Tempus looms on the viewscreen, a swirling mass of violet storms and fractured light. Systems are failing, she shouts over the din. The temporal field is interfering with our instruments. Lieutenant Kale stumbles back from his station, eyes wide. That's impossible, our oxygen readings just increased. We're not losing air, we're gaining it. A junior engineer whimpers, pointing at the bioscanner. Look at the lifespans, they're not counting up, they're counting down. The captain's voice cuts through the terror, sharp as a blade. Brace for landing. If we don't go down there, we'll never understand what's happening to us. The ship shudders violently as the engines scream in protest, and for a heartbeat, the entire crew feels it. The vertigo of time itself unraveling beneath their feet. Somewhere in the static, a distorted voice whispers, "Turn back, but it's too late, the Chronos is already falling." As the landing party steps onto the cracked surface of Tempus, the air hums with an eerie energy. The ground beneath their boots shifts unpredictably, as if the planet itself is resisting their presence. Rivers twist and churn in impossible directions, water defying gravity as it surges upstream. Withered plants tremble before their eyes, shriveled leaves unfurling back into vibrant green, petals knitting themselves together like time itself is stitching the world back together. Dr. Ilara Voss kneels, her gloved fingers brushing against a jagged rock. The moment she touches it, the stone disintegrates into fine dust, only to reassemble itself an instant later, whole and unbroken. Her breath catches. This isn't just time moving backward, she murmurs, voice tight with realization. It's erasing causality. Events aren't just reversing, they're being undone entirely. A sharp gasp cuts through the silence. Lieutenant Kale stumbles, clutching his side as blood seeps through his uniform. But before anyone can rush to his aid, the wound begins stitching itself closed in reverse, the crimson stain retreating into his skin until no trace remains. He staggers upright, bewildered, just as a shadow detaches itself from the fractured landscape. The figure steps forward, revealing a face all too familiar, Kale, but older, his eyes hollow with exhaustion. "Leave now," his future self rasps, "or you'll unravel with time." The warning hangs heavy in the air, but before the crew can process it, the ground shudders violently. The team sprints back toward the Chronos, hearts pounding, only to find the hatch sealed shut. No amount of force pries it open. Trapped outside, they watch in horror as the ship's wreckage begins reassembling midair, twisted metal straightening, shattered panels snapping back into place. Dr. Voss's hands tremble as she pieces together the truth. "We're not just seeing the past," she whispers, "we're seeing our own future. The Chronos will crash because they never left, and now, time is forcing the paradox to play out." As the ground trembles beneath them, the crew of the Chronos faces a truth more terrifying than the planet itself. Future Kale's hollow eyes lock onto his younger self, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've lived this moment countless times," he admits, his hands shaking. "Each cycle, I age backward, forced to watch as time devours itself. Tempus isn't just reversing our lives, it's feeding on them." A jagged crack splits the earth at their feet, revealing a pulsing, golden light from deep below. The glow flickers like a heartbeat, casting eerie shadows across the crew's faces. Dr. Voss grips the edge of the fissure, her mind racing. The core isn't a natural phenomenon, she realizes. It's a singularity, a wound in time itself. And it's pulling us in, Lieutenant Kale steps forward, his future self mirroring the movement. Jumping in is suicide, the younger Kale argues, but his older counterpart shakes his head. No, staying here is. The ground shudders again, chunks of rock floating upward as gravity itself unravels. Around them, the wreckage of the Chronos completes its reassembly, hovering ominously in the sky, a ghost of the disaster yet to come. Dr. Voss swallows hard, her scientific curiosity warring with raw fear. If we enter the core, we might disrupt the loop, she says, but we could also be erased from existence. The crew exchanges glances, each weighing the horror of vanishing against the torment of reliving this nightmare forever. Then, without warning, the fissure widens, the light flaring violently. The decision is made for them, the ground gives way and they fall, not down but through, tumbling into the heart of the anomaly. The last thing they hear is future Kale's voice, echoing as if from a great distance. Remember, the present is the only thing real. And then, silence, darkness, the crew plunges into the unknown, where time has no meaning, and the only certainty is that nothing will ever be the same again. As the crew hurtles through the core of Tempus, reality twists around them in ways no human mind was meant to comprehend. The vortex swallows them whole, spitting them into a chaos of inverted memories, not just their own, but fragments of lives they never lived. Dr. Voss watches in horror as her childhood unravels backward, her first steps undone, her first breath stolen by the void. We're not just falling, she gasps. We're being unmade. Kale's grip tightens around her wrist, his voice cutting through the screams of the others. Don't look back, he shouts. The past is a trap here. Focus on now, or you'll dissolve with it. The crew clings to his words like lifelines, shutting their eyes against the nightmarish parade of undone moments. A wedding ring melts back into raw metal. A grave yawns open, spitting its occupant into the world alive. Time isn't just broken here, it's vengeful. Then, as suddenly as the fall began, it ends. They crash onto a surface that shouldn't exist, a mirrored plane where a second Tempus hangs suspended, its rivers flowing forward, its trees growing toward a sun that actually rises. The shock of normalcy is almost worse than the anomaly. This is impossible, mutters engineer Rin, pressing a hand to the glass-like ground. That planet obeys physics. Ours never did. The voice comes again, neither male nor female, seeming to vibrate from the air itself. Two worlds, two timelines, one must end for the other to continue. Dr. Voss staggers to her feet, her reflection doing the same on the other side of the divide. There, in the mirrored Tempus, stands another Ilara Voss, same face, same scars, but eyes filled with a resolve hers lacks. You're the key, Mirror Voss says, pressing a palm against the invisible barrier between them. But you already knew that. Kale steps forward, his future self's warning ringing in his ears. What happens if we break the loop? The mirrored crew exchanges glances before their Kale answers, his voice heavy. One version of us vanishes, permanently. A beat of silence, then softer, and it has to be by choice. The ground beneath them trembles not from destruction, but from decision. The crew of the Chronos realizes the cruelest truth yet. Survival demands sacrifice, and time won't let them cheat its price twice. Now, the moment of truth arrives. The crew stands face to face with their own reflections, not as illusions, but as living proof of the paradox tearing reality apart. Mirror Voss speaks first, her voice steady but edged with sorrow. One of us must cease to exist, she says, her words hanging in the air like a death sentence. The loop can't hold both timelines. If we don't act, both versions of us will unravel. Kale doesn't hesitate. He steps forward, locking eyes with his mirrored counterpart. Then it's me, he says. I've already lived this loop too many times. Before anyone can protest, he reaches out, and the two versions of Kale collide, not with violence, but with a terrible, silent acceptance. Light engulfs them as their bodies merge, the paradox shuddering like a wound finally stitched closed. The planet itself seems to scream. The ground splits not into chaos, but into something worse, order. Time lurches forward, snapping back into its rightful flow with a force that sends the surviving crew tumbling through the void. Suddenly, they're back on the Chronos, but not as it was, as it should have been, moments before the crash. The ship's alarms blare, the same warnings from what feels like a lifetime ago. Dr. Voss doesn't waste a second. She sprints to the controls, her fingers flying over the console. "We rewrite the future now," she shouts, rerouting power to the engines with a desperation that borders on fury. The ship groans, then lurches violently as it tears free of Tempus's grip. Behind them, the planet convulses, its surface folding inward like paper thrown into a fire. The anomaly collapses, sealing itself away with a final, deafening silence. For a heartbeat, no one speaks. The crew stares at the viewscreen, where Tempus once hung in the void. Now, there's only empty space, and the eerie certainty that something irreversible has been done. Then, a sound breaks the stillness, a breath, ragged but alive. They turn as one to see Kale, younger, unharmed, blinking in confusion at his own hands. Time kept its promise, he murmurs, as if he can't quite believe it himself, but the relief is short-lived. Dr. Voss's console beeps, pulling her attention to the data streaming in. Her blood runs cold. Tempus wasn't a planet, she whispers. It was a sentient black hole, a test. The crew exchanges glances, the unspoken question louder than any alarm. What if there are more? As the Chronos leaps to hyperspace, the answer flickers to life on the navigation screen. A new set of coordinates and a single, chilling image, an exoplanet where ice crawls upward from the oceans and the sun rises in the west. The loop may be broken, but the universe has only just begun its game. As the Chronos streaks through the void, leaving the shattered remains of Tempus behind, the crew grapples with the weight of their discovery. Kale stands at the viewport, his reflection staring back at him. Younger, whole, but haunted by memories of a paradox he can't fully explain. Time kept its promise, he murmurs again, as if trying to convince himself. Dr. Voss pores over the data, flooding her console, her fingers trembling slightly as she pieces together the truth. Tempus wasn't just a planet, she says, her voice low but sharp with revelation. It was a sentient black hole, bending time not by accident, but by design. It was testing us, testing causality itself. The crew falls silent, the implications settling over them like a shadow. If the universe created one such anomaly, what's to stop it from creating another? Kale's question lingers, unanswered. What if there are more? His words seem to summon the answer before it even appears. The navigation screen flickers, static distorting the star map until new coordinates resolve. A distant exoplanet, its oceans frozen in reverse, ice creeping upward toward an inverted sky. The sun there doesn't set, it rises, defying every law the crew has ever known. The Chronos hums around them, its engines still thrumming from the jump. No one speaks, no one needs to. The screen's glow paints their faces in eerie light, each of them understanding, in that moment, that their journey isn't over. It's only just begun, and as the ship adjusts its course toward the new anomaly, one thought binds them together. The universe is far stranger, far more dangerous than they ever imagined. But they're ready. Whatever awaits them next, they'll face it, not as victims of time, but as its masters. The screen cuts to black, then a whisper in the dark, engaging hyperdrive. The stars blur, the hunt continues. If you enjoyed this journey through the paradoxes of time and space, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an adventure. Until next time, keep looking to the stars because who knows what mysteries are waiting to unravel.